her background is nerd.
Darren should have gone to school here instead of Cutter, because you are a devil. I can tell you that right now.
She rolls in like she's a Hollywood movie star now. She's just here for the camera.
I guess I tooted.
No hard-hitting questions here.
Yeah,
Shall we talk about my one-sentence resignation?
Well, welcome to the next episode of Spilling the Tea in Studio D on the road again.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Van Buren, which was weird. It said, or Alma, I guess. Van Buren, Alma.
Van Buren's
Alma Boulevard
right
is our
after?
address, but it's technically Van Buren.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of like Malvern Avenue in Hot Springs.
I guess, yeah.
You know, it's not Malvern, but yeah.
And
Anyway.
So anyway, very happy to be up here at, what's the official title of this campus?
Thicksten Center for Learning. It's part of the Van Buren Public School District.
Okay. All right. And we are happy to have this morning Candice Daniels with an S,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct.
Best podcast coming. Two Candaces over here.
Yeah. Well,
You can't go wrong with
I
two.
know.
Well, this is what I'm
Exactly.
saying. I'm just glad to meet a Candace with some worth. You know what I'm saying? there for the longest, I thought Candace just, translated to deadbeat, really. I mean, if I'm being honest, but now you have proven my theory wrong.
Karma is
yeah,
coming for you.
So I appreciate that.
Karma is all I'm going to say.
So, Candace, let's talk a little bit about your journey, and then we'll talk about the actual school that's
Sure.
here. Okay, so number one, what led you to education, and then kind of tell us the path that led to where you're at today.
Sure, absolutely. I love sharing this story, especially with young people who are right out of high school and they don't really know exactly what they want to do.
Sure.
Because I was that. If you name it, and I've probably done it. I've finished sheetrock, had pharmacy tech license. I've been a CNA. I've worked in the ER. And it led me to working for a corporate office for a worldwide retailer in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I was so busy trying to climb the corporate ladder, and I had 4 small children at home.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I have been married 20 years last September.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
And I was just climbing that ladder, and I didn't feel like I had really a purpose.
Right.
And I just started praying, Lord, I'm not happy here. I don't know. There's something about, we were making money. We had the cars and the house, but I didn't feel satisfied.
Right.
And so I just started praying, honestly, and I started to say, Lord, what am I supposed to be doing? At the time, I volunteered a lot with nonprofits in the area, children's shelters, very involved in our local church, taught kids, in ministries there with our church, and I just started praying, God, what am I supposed to do? What am I good at? And then it kind of smacked me at a children's camp.
Yeah.
You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I've called you to work with kids.
Sure.
And so it kind of wrecked me at kids camp. I was there as a counselor, and I ended up getting wrecked and came home and told my husband, I want to quit my job and go back to school. And he was like,
what? Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm sure. I know that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be working with kids. And so he supported me 100%. I ended up going back to school. It's been kind of a slow process. I ended up going back to school, and I said, well, I want to start substitute teaching so that I can at least get my foot in the door for education. And let me tell you, that was in 2017, the fall of 2017, I was making $9 an hour back then. And I was just like, when you go from salary to something like that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of faith being tested. We downsized on our home, our cars. Our kids were like, what are you doing to us? And so, but in the long story, we ended up moving back home. We ended up moving here. This is the area that my husband and I are both from. I'm from just across the river in Oklahoma. He's from here in Van Buren.
Oh, wow.
We moved back home because it just made more sense. It was a little bit more affordable on that type of income that we had to change to. And I had a couple substitute positions at Alma School District in Van Buren, and I realized very quickly that our bills were used to the other income.
Sure.
And I actually told my husband, I can't do this. I can't. I just can't. And so I actually went and got a job with a corporate company here in town in Fort Smith.
Right.
And I was so miserable for a whole month. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this money is not worth
Yeah.
it. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, first job I ever actually quit without a notice. I was having lunch in my car, and I was just kind of having a pity party, and I just started praying, Lord,
Yeah.
why am I so unhappy? Like, this is miserable. Everybody in the area was like, man, you're lucky to get in the door with that company. How did you do
Yeah.
that? I'm like, I don't know. They just hired me, and now I'm not happy.
Mhm.
And the Lord kind of spoke in my spirit and was like, you're not doing what you're supposed
Oh,
to
yeah.
be doing.
Supposed to be doing.
So I called the lady at Van Buren, who was over the substitute teachers at that time, and I said, listen, I've changed my mind. Do you have anything open right now? And I really need something like, I need full time. I can't work subbing 1 or 2 days a week
Sure.
and make it with my family. I need to be working 5 days a week. And so she goes, well, the only thing we have right now is at Izzard. And she kind of said it like that. And I'm like, what school is Izzard? I was trying to think of all the different schools that my kids were in, and I was like, where is Izzard? And I said, well, which one is Izzard? And she says, well, it's the AE.
Mhm.
And I was like, AE? What's the AE? And she was like, well, it's the alternative school with the at-risk kids. And she said, that's the only opening we have right now that we can't keep people there. And when she said that, I was like, well, can you send me there? And she was like, Candice, I don't know. Are you sure that you know what you're getting into?
Right.
In the back of my mind, I was like, I need work 5 days a week.
Right.
I know I'm good with kids. Like, how bad can it be?
Sure.
Oh, man. They sent me in to work for Casey and Jeff and on the high school side subbing.
Yeah.
And, oh, my word, that first day they put me on the high school side subbing. And I was thinking, I went home and I cried for almost 2 weeks straight.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, oh, Lord, this is the door.
Sure, this
open
is
for
where I'm
me?
supposed to be. Yeah.
And so I just kind of took it one day at a time. 2 weeks in, these kids are trying to run me out the door, and they're not hiding it either.
Oh, yeah.
They were not hiding it.
Yeah.
And so I just prayed before I went to school every day, cried a little bit after school, and got it out of my system before I, got home and had to be mom mode. And so I thought, they're not going to break me. They're not going to break me. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks in, this whole time I'd been kind of sharing things about myself. I've coached basketball for many years, now 20 years. Worked with kids. I was sharing anything I could think of to try to connect with them. I was trying to do. I was sharing what was going on in my life with my kids. And 2 weeks in, there was this girl sitting in the back of the room, and man, she was mean. She was so mean. Always, I mean, you name it, cussing.
Hurt people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so I just tried to not say anything that ruffled her feathers, because we just needed to make it through each class period with that student.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so some of the other kids were asking me questions, and I'm a chatty cat, and I think they figured out, hey, if we can get her talking, maybe we won't have to do much today. And they were asking me about my kids, and I was sharing, and it was kind of a pivotal point in my life, like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track, because this particular day, it'd been a rough 2 weeks. And this day, I was telling them about my kids, and in the back of the room, I hear this young girl pipe up, and she said, Miss Daniels. And I thought, oh, Lord, here it goes. What is she going to say now? What did I, And she looked at me, and I said yes, and called her by her name, and she says, that's why you're such a good mom, isn't it? Because they had made a comment about things being hard at home. And I said, man, I get it. Life can be hard sometimes. And this boy had made a comment. What would you know about difficulties in life? What would you know? You're just a teacher.
Yeah.
And I had taken that opportunity to say, well, wait just a minute. I might be a teacher, but I'm not just a teacher. I've lived. And I shared my testimony of growing up in a very verbally abusive home with one of my parents. And I just kind of shared that, and I shared that I didn't have to take it out on everybody else around me. I chose to let the teachers that were in my life love me big and do right when I was at school. And so that's when she piped up and was like, that's why you're such a good mom, huh? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, because I promised to be better than I ever had for my kids.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, that girl had my back in class. If anybody was trying to ruffle feathers or not listen, yes, it kind of gave me a little bit of classroom credit, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
And she was there, and she had my back anytime anything came up with a difficult student. She's like, hey, man, Miss Daniels is good. Don't be messing with her,
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
I grew to love it. I grew to love it so much. And then Casey brought me in his office one day and was like, Candice, I have some news I have to share with you. We have to let you go. The district's not approving us the budget to keep a long-term sub. I'd been there at this time maybe 3 or 4 months, and I was loving it. And I knew, this is where I'm
What-
supposed to
right.
be.
Yeah.
Right.
And when he told me, I could have gotten bitter and been like, man, I've done all this for you, but I didn't. I kept a smile on my face. I was like, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity. And if something ever comes up, please call me because I really
Right.
love it here. I love these
Yeah.
students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't even, I don't even know if that was, I think, Friday. And they called me on Monday. And I was like, what do they want
Yeah.
on Monday?
Yeah.
And he says, hey, I'm sorry to bother you, but we're reaching out because we need to have a substitute for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on the elementary wing in the K1 room.
Mm-hmm.
In the back of my mind, I was like, you just fired me
Yeah.
Friday. And
Yeah.
you need
Right.
to come back.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and the flesh side of me wanted to say, nope,
Yeah.
Yeah.
figure
You
it
figure
out.
it out on
Figure
your
it
own.
out.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
my spirit, it was like, no, this is the door that you have to walk through.
Mhm.
You tell them
Right.
you will be there. And I did. And I went, and I'd only been working with the high school kids. And so this time I'm working with the littles.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I had a smile on my face, which I tend to do. That's just
Yeah.
me. And
Right.
some of the other staff were like, man, why is she smiling? And I learned very quickly I needed to wear tennis shoes to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh, yeah.
don't wear nice
Yeah.
shoes or something.
Yeah.
You can't
We're
run
running around
run in.
everywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and so we finished that week out, and we had straight lines going to the cafeteria.
Yeah.
The kids were actually doing the work that the teacher had left
Yeah.
that we needed to do, and I was like, man, this kind of opened my eyes because I need to work with the younger kids. Like,
Right.
I really love this
Yeah.
is my niche.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I done my job, and I thought, okay, anything from this experience, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know the demographic
Right.
that I'm supposed to work with, and now I have a path that I can work toward
Oh, yeah.
in school because at the time I did not have a teaching
Uh-huh.
license, and so time ticked on, and about I don't even know if it was a full month later,
Yeah.
one of the staff members reached out on Facebook and was like, "Hey, Mr. Lloyd is trying to reach you, and he can't get anybody to call back from the substitute service. Can you give
Right.
him a call?"
Mhm.
And I did, and he's like, "Hey, Miss Daniels, Casey Lloyd, I was wondering if you could come in and have a sit down with me on Monday." In the back of my mind, I was like, "What did I do those 3
Yeah.
days?" Like in my mind, I was like, I was coming back. Did I say something I wasn't supposed to? Did I do something? I was like,
Yeah.
I know I'd done everything by the book.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
thought, okay, I'll be there. And I come in and sit down with him, and he said, I just wanted to run an option by to see if you might be interested. Our K1 teacher's not going to be able to come back.
Wow.
She's not going to be able to come back, and we need somebody to fill in long term for the rest of the school year. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yes, like
Yeah.
that's my foot in the door.
Mhm.
And I was just thanking the Lord, thank you for the opportunity. I thanked Casey, and he's like, what we saw you do in those 3 days with the kids, we haven't seen veteran teachers be able to do that.
Right.
And he said, I said, I don't have a license. He's like, we don't need one. I think you have
You
what
can
it
get-
takes,
yeah,
and we
you
can
can
train
get
you
one.
on
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did. And the end of the year, I mean, I was rocking and rolling, loved it. Like I said, started wearing tennis shoes every day to be able to run. And
Mhm.
at the end of the year, we were working for a different co-op at that time. This is my 8th year
Yeah.
with the AE here.
Right.
And so at the end of the year, Jeff came to me, and they were doing contracts for all of the employees that were on contract. And here I'm just a substitute working through Kelly Services. And he came to me, he's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you for just a minute." I was like, "Sure." He's like, "I got good news and bad news. What do you want first?" I was like, "Give me the bad news first." And so he's like, "Well, the bad news is contracts aren't ready." And in my mind, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
does he not remember that I'm not a
Right.
licensed
Yeah.
teacher and I don't know
Right.
what he's talking about?
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at him and I said, "But I don't have my license." And he was like, "Well, that's the good news that I have for you." And he was like, "We have a contract for you if you're interested, and to bring you on as an interventionist and to teach our
Right.
K1 class next year."
Right.
Mhm.
And that was the history. I've been here ever since. I've loved
Wow.
it. There's been a few rocky patches through COVID. Was
Yeah.
kind of difficult for Jennifer Warden and I.
Yeah.
She came the year after my first year. She came that
Yeah.
second year.
Mhm.
And we've grown to just love each other, our friendship, how we
Right.
work together. My strengths are, her weaknesses. Her
Sure.
weaknesses are my strengths. And
Yeah.
we really
Right.
have done a really great job working together here.
Oh, yeah.
And we led the K1 group once we moved over into this new building for a few years. And then when Dawson came on with us, they had to make some changes because I was
Right.
still kind of going slow to go with my schooling. And I have 4 kids at home, and actually I have 5 now because we adopted one of our students
Well,
from
good for
here.
you. Oh, wow. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes,
Oh, that's
we
just
did.
makes it just
And-
like a God thing too.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. In 2020, I had a student that came in really difficult, and if you would have told me then that she was going to be my daughter, I would have probably laughed because it was pretty difficult. And
Yeah.
she was just a little
Yeah.
second grader, but I've
Oh.
been here ever since, and I love it.
Yeah.
When Todd brought up the option of the behavior team
Yep.
to kind of keep us on, because I still don't have a teaching license.
Sure.
I've been doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing and doing a great job at it, and I give all the glory to God.
Right.
And I've been good at it because He's gifted me with things that
Sure.
that others have seen those strengths and let me just do what I do.
Yeah.
And the behavior team, I was like, well, tell me a little bit about what this behavior team would entail. And I was thinking, oh, I'd have to be with high school again.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a rough time in my life.
Yeah.
But then I thought, you know what? If this is the door that's opening for me right now, I'm going to take it.
Right.
And this is our 3rd year with the behavior team, and we have been rocking and rolling. Our suspensions continue to decline every year.
Yeah.
The kids have grown to love and trust us, and we're getting to teach those coping skills.
Awesome.
And it made me have a desire to. I realized that I'm not supposed to be a
Right.
teacher in a classroom.
Right.
That I was good with the hard stuff.
Sure.
And I went back to school. I changed my major from teaching for elementary education to psychology. I actually graduate next month.
Oh,
With
congratulations.
my bachelor's. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
That's been a journey for me.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
graduate with my bachelor's next month in psychology, and I've been accepted to three master's programs. I've just
Wow.
for August. I just haven't decided. But I want to know more about the psychology and why the young people think the way they think. What makes them tick? Because if we can find the root of the problem and help to tackle that,
And give
then
them
we can
some
make all the
coping
world of
strategies.
difference in the classroom.
For sure. Well,
I-
lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
what,
it's a
no,
lot.
No, but what I would
Love
say,
it.
first and foremost, obviously, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but to see it in action about kids not knowing how much, not caring how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
And by opening up, obviously, that made a difference. And then I think the other piece to this that's pretty incredible is the fact that you got to begin, with the end, if you will.
Yes.
And then when you got to go to elementary, you saw the importance of developing those young people and those habits at a very young age. And if you get that in place as they progress, a lot of the work's been done, and they know that expectation. So that's incredible. So
I'm just sitting here going, okay, I know why they recommended you for the podcast.
Oh yeah,
And you
absolutely.
just tell your heart for kids,
Yeah.
and it's really
and
it's an encouragement.
well,
like, very
and
encouraging.
again, I can relate from the standpoint of education was not on my radar either. And like you're saying, I mean, you do get to the point of thinking, is this what I'm supposed to do? If it's not, open that door. And like I said, when it opened for me, it was kicked open, and haven't looked back, been in it for 30 years. But yeah, it's, that's the other part of it. I think probably one of the most miserable people in the world has to be somebody that gets into education, and it's quite the opposite of you and I. They realize this isn't for me. And then they get to a point salary-wise, or let's just say benefit-wise, that they hang on. And that absolutely is miserable for the adult, but more importantly, it's miserable for the kids.
Yes.
And most importantly, it's not fair to the kids.
That's right.
And I
So-
do believe it's a calling.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
for
Absolutely.
sure.
And like you
Yeah.
said, if they're not in it for the right reasons, they don't have heart for kids. They're going to
Yeah.
struggle because it is tough.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
a tough position.
Well, and so let's talk a little bit about, AE or alternative ed or non-traditional education and all these new terms that are coming about. A lot of people just think that alternative education are for these kids that are, basically had some kind of troubled past or whatever. But, I mean, alternative education is such a wide umbrella.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, I've seen young ladies that get pregnant in school and need a faster track on the way out. Again, it might be that kids, sometimes they just don't, they can't process real well in those larger groups. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And even in the 8 years you're doing it, you've probably seen a change in what the population looks like.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've actually made it my mission in the community because I am so involved with nonprofits and my kids, like I said, I have 5 kids and they're all active in something. And so I'm coaching and in the community a lot, part of a nonprofit. And everywhere I go, I've made it my mission to help people understand what AE is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when I first started this journey, when people would ask, oh, what do you do? Where do you work? And I'd say, oh, I'm at Izzard. And they're like, you're with the bad kids, and that would make me so mad.
Yeah.
Like I would get fighting mad with
Yeah.
people, and I'm like,
Yes.
"Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?"
I know.
And I took it as an opportunity to educate them and educate our community and anybody that I came in contact with what we do and what our students are. Like we don't have bad kids. We have
Right.
kids that just need different things.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. We've seen it change so much in 8 years, and just being able to provide those things that,
Right.
you know, some of these things that are typical for, you know, a 504 or an IEP requirement, there are everyday requirements here.
Oh,
we,
yeah.
we do them without the
Yeah.
stipulation of
Sure.
contracts or,
Right.
or you know,
Yeah.
education
Right.
plans. But we see that. We see kids that just need the smaller classroom. We see kids that have undiagnosed disabilities that
Right.
that we get to work closely with Western Arkansas guidance counselors here in our building with our students as well. They service our kids, and we get to work with them and the parents. And when we can get parents that work with all of
Right.
us together,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
that's when we start seeing the
Yeah.
difference in our students.
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
and I firmly believe this. I mean, really, some of your best teachers need to be in AE for lots of reasons. I mean, because it goes beyond being able to teach math facts or literacy or those kinds of things, because I mean, it's just teaching the overall kid.
Yes.
You know, and like you're saying, getting to know them is a big part of that. You know, I think back, you know, even through the years and some of the kids I went to school with, of course, I graduated in the mid-'80s, but, you know, I think about the kids we see in AE today and sometimes how they were just maybe shuffled into special ed, but that really wasn't where they needed to be.
Right.
I mean, it was just they learned a little differently, or let's just say their home life was as such that they needed more time or what have you, but
Absolutely.
but I mean, you know, to watch the AE programs across the state grow and flourish, and some of the best stories, you know, of kids and success come out of
Oh,
AE.
yeah.
Yes, Jennifer and I, our last year in the classroom, that spring when school ended, we transitioned 6 students back in 1 year.
That's awesome.
That
in-
is
in one year.
really awesome.
And it was an attribute to
Yeah.
loving them big, meeting
Yeah.
them where they are, thinking outside of the box,
Yeah.
because sometimes
Yeah.
the state regulations and guidelines keep things inside the box.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
you know, we go outside
Yeah.
the box in AE, and we find
Yeah.
what works with the kids.
Right.
And then what's been great with Buren School District is when we bring these kids in, they want to hear from us. They want to
Yeah.
hear, okay, what works for so and so? What
Yeah.
did you do differently that we weren't doing? And we
Yeah.
get to kind of share our knowledge and share that with them, so that they can continue those things for these students to be successful.
Well, and I think sometimes folks lose sight of that too. Not all kids, because all kids definitely need a different environment. Some do, but for the majority of the kids, the end goal is what you're saying, is to transition them back into high school if and when they're ready.
Yes.
Again, not all kids ever get there. Some kids get over here and they see they can be successful in this environment.
Yes.
And then, you know, it really becomes more of a home district, if you will,
Absolutely.
for them. And it, you know, to watch those kids, because, I mean, the one thing about the alternative education kids is, you know, they have as much or even more sometimes ability, but number 2, the opportunity for college or post-secondary occupations, whatever the case may be, as a kid in the normal, let's say, K-12 environment.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And a lot of times, you know, we've seen sometimes it's not the kid, it's
Mhm.
can be the adult.
Right.
It's the
Absolutely.
clash, and they,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
you know, you don't know what the kid's been through, and you've got to just have a
Absolutely.
little bit of grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, and sometimes when a teacher has, you know, 30 or 35 students, it's hard for them
It
to
Sure.
is.
make those
Absolutely.
connections
Yes.
to
Yeah.
even be in a place where they can
Right.
go that direction.
Yes.
And so
Right.
that's what's so good about the smaller classroom
Yeah.
Mhm.
sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this room we're in.
Sure.
for a
I know,
minute.
I
mean,
love it.
It's pretty common, you know, calming, I should say. That's my country coming out.
Mhm.
But, you know, after a couple of hours on the road with Candice, I'm pretty wound up. But
He only
I-
ran one stop sign.
I came in here
way
and I
here.
was like,
That is our whole
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Jennifer Worden and I, this is our office. We call it the calming room.
Mhm.
The students know that when they're getting worked up, our whole goal is to kind of help de-escalate.
Yeah.
And we want it to not get to the point where chairs are being
Sure.
thrown or
Right.
somebody's
Right.
being physically
Yeah.
aggressive.
Right.
And I think we've done a really good job here on campus building the relationships with the students where they trust us.
Yeah.
And they're saying, hey, can I go for a walk with Miss Daniels or with Mrs. Warden? And
Mhm.
and you get to where there's certain students that will ask for her and certain students that will ask me. That
Yeah.
they've just formed that solid object with
Sure.
us.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we'll come out, take them for a walk, bring them to the behavior room, and they know, like, if we're already past the point to where
Yeah.
it's really difficult and
yeah.
we're probably not going to come in here and play with the fidgets
Sure,
or
yeah.
things
Right.
like that.
Right.
But if they're proactively saying, hey, I'm getting angry, I feel it, I need help.
Yeah.
So we go down and we'll bring them down here, and we have options. We have the treehouse for the smaller kids back in
Gotcha.
the back corner.
Yeah.
If they just need space to kind of check out,
Yeah.
to where they're not talking, there's no adults, they can climb into the treehouse and have a
Right.
minute to themselves.
Right.
And normally we have calming music in here, forest theme music always playing. And you know, outside of that, Jennifer and I pray over this room. You know, our students
Sure.
don't even know the half of it.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, and it's not for them to know, but I can share with
Yeah.
you all. We pray
Sure.
over this room.
Oh,
We make
absolutely.
sure that this room is a place, like you said, that they can walk through the door and they can feel the shift in the atmosphere.
Oh,
they can feel the
absolutely.
energy, and they know it's a safe place for them.
Yeah.
And so we have the bean bags. We have every kind of fidget you can think of. They know the ones that are on my desk. They're welcome to.
Yeah.
They know Mrs. Warden doesn't like things on
Yeah.
her desk.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so they know that and they respect that.
Yeah.
And we have a really good time with
Yeah.
the kids in here, just getting a break away from it.
Right.
Sometimes they just need help. They're shutting
Yeah.
down with work,
Right.
and they need a little bit quieter place. We'll come sit down at the table here, and we'll work with them one-on-one to kind of get them caught up on their assignment,
Right.
or to help them understand what it is that's
Yeah.
frustrating them.
Well, let's
Yeah.
be honest. I bet some adults find their way down here too. don't they?
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of adults find
Yeah.
their way
Yeah.
down here.
Well, I was even thinking, even just the LED lights and then the covers on the lights. I mean, that's a strategy for any classroom.
Oh, it
Yeah.
really
just
is.
in that
Right.
can calm just
Yes.
the
Yeah.
low
We
light.
have the light sensory wall as well. With sometimes with students with autism, we do have a few, and they can come in here and we can turn the lights off. And with the LED lights, the TV, and then the light wall that we have, that light wall, every light that you touch will change colors, and so they like to come in and
Oh,
just
that's
feel of it, and
neat.
kind of get a reset. It
Yeah.
kind of re-regulates them
Yeah.
and gets them ready to go back into the classroom
Okay.
settled.
That's
So how
really
many
neat.
kids are y'all running right now?
I don't know the overall number, but I know elementary's pushing 40, middle school's running right at 30, and high school I think is around that same as well, between
Wow.
30 and 40.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's not including our hub students at
Yeah.
the main building.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so this particular location, I don't guess it was always a school.
No. We used to be at what they called Izzard back when I started 8 years
Right.
ago. It was one of the oldest buildings in the district.
Yeah.
And when I say old, it was old.
Yeah.
Leaky roofs, you name it. They
Yeah.
were always patching things up. And so it was nice. The school district really saw what we were doing here and have really taken good care of us. And they invested
Right.
quite a bit of money for this location. They tore the old building down. It's now parking lot for our football stadium.
Gotcha.
And they moved us here 3 years ago, and all being in one place. Elementary's in the backside. There's a
Yeah.
quad out there and a quad across the driveway there
Yeah.
for the high school, and we're all in one place. Jennifer and I work with kids from kindergarten all the way to high school, so we're all
Yeah.
over campus any
Sure.
given day.
Yeah.
But we love it. We love this facility that they've provided for us,
Yeah.
and we're thankful for the school district.
Yeah.
They got us all new playground equipment out there, and at the other place there was I think a jungle gym that was probably as
Right.
old as I am, and so it was really nice. The kids
Yeah.
were excited when they came over to this building
Yeah.
just to see everything that
Well,
we have.
You hit on something I think's important too, and sometimes I understand that. I mean, districts have what they have.
Yes.
But again, I've always said this, that one of the basic things we can provide kids is a safe, clean environment, and the clean part just goes back to that pride piece. I mean, heck, I've worked in some districts where, again, wasn't in the best building, but again, when I was able to get to a better building, my attitude shifted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, hey, out of the dungeon into the palace kind of thing, and I think that's fair with kids especially.
Oh
you
yeah, they were so excited. Which, I always had fun things in my classroom. I always made sure that it was, it felt comfortable when they were coming
Right.
in.
Yeah.
That was kind of another thing that would make me mad with people. They would see me, I would raise money for things for my classroom, or
Right.
I would do a GoFundMe or a teacher pay teacher, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And why are you putting that in your room? They're just going to tear it up. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, they're not. They're going to take
Right.
care of it.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
I
just
always
the perception.
yes,
of
and I
that
always
some
had
people.
very elaborate kitchen centers that
Sure.
I paid for out of my own pocket,
Right,
and the
right.
kids knew, and I made sure they knew. Hey,
Yeah.
I spent my hard-earned money
Sure.
on this
Yeah.
for you.
That's right.
And when they knew that I was doing something for them,
right.
I
Yeah.
never had a
Oh, yeah.
single problem with anything being
Yeah.
torn up
Exactly.
in my
Yeah.
classroom.
Well, I can remember being in the district I was in prior to taking this job, but we finally got to the point where we were 1-to-1 K-12, right? And I never will forget, I had a parent come up and go, "Hey, that kid's got his Chromebook out at the ball game," and I said, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, what if he breaks it?" And I said, "Yeah." I mean, it's the
Things
cost.
happen.
Yeah, it's the cost of doing business.
Mhm.
And I said, more than likely, that young man doesn't have internet access where he's at.
Mhm.
And I said, as long, and we've got them locked down where we know they can't get to certain sites, so we're not worried about that part of it.
Right.
And I said, and they're like, "Well, I hadn't thought about that." And I said, "Exactly." I mean, we don't give these things to kids to not use.
Right.
You know. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, as far as you being where you're at and how you got here, that kind of thing. I know you probably had to have one or two teachers probably that touched your heart or influenced you in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I had a Head Start teacher
Oh,
and a
wow.
kindergarten teacher
Okay.
that I will never forget. And there was
Right.
a few others in middle school and high school along the way. But especially Miss Ann, my Head Start teacher, I remember her loving me so big through difficult times in my life,
Yeah.
because I can remember life being hard.
Sure.
And then to move, up into kindergarten with Miss Janice Gordon, she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I actually went to school with her daughter, graduated with her daughter, Maggie.
Oh, wow.
Her
Aw.
daughter is also, she's an educator in Oklahoma now
Okay.
as well.
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
But she loved me big, and
Mhm.
she knew my potential as a student.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were days that I came in and I didn't have the best attitude because of
Yeah.
things that were going on
Sure.
at home.
Yeah.
But she always, I remember her giving the best hugs and
Yeah.
loving me big right where I was at.
Mhm.
And that kind of helped to form my attitude early on.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
when I eventually became a mother myself, one of my daughters had a terrible kindergarten teacher,
Mhm.
and she made her feel so bad. And I would go chaperone,
Yeah.
and I chaperoned on a trip, and I knew Adri cried a lot going
Mhm.
to kindergarten, and it made me
Yeah.
sad because I remember my kindergarten
Yeah.
teacher being so
Right.
amazing that she helped
Yeah.
kind of create who I am
Right.
today.
Right.
And I thought, man, this can't be right. And I chaperoned for a field trip, and this teacher, she was very
Mhm.
young. It was her first year
Oh,
teaching.
yeah.
And she was so snappy and hateful and rude to the kids. I was just kind of flabbergasted. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, I never want to be. This was before I was
Yeah.
in education.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
like, man, no wonder like Adriana's dreading going
Yeah.
to school. I wish
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I wish there were more teachers like Miss Gordon. And I think that's kind of the time frame that things
Yeah.
started kind of shifting in
Yeah.
my mind as
Uh-huh.
well. Like, man, I
Sure.
wish there were more people that
But,
Yeah.
that were
Yeah.
like her.
yeah.
And there were several other. I went to Roland
Mhm.
Elementary, middle school, high school, just across the bridge, and I had several teachers that really loved me big right
Right.
where I was. Some that knew my family, that knew my mom. My mom was
Oh, wow.
my mom was a little difficult in school, and
Yeah.
I will never forget one teacher was like, "I can't believe you're so and so's daughter." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, I am." You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so they helped
Yeah.
to kind of help me see what a true teacher
Yeah.
loving somebody
Yeah.
through
Well,
anything.
and again, I think even for early teachers and even some of our most experienced teachers, I get the opportunity to talk to them in groups. A lot of times I remind them, look, mom and dad or whoever the caretaker may be are sending us the very best they have. It's not like there's a better version of this kid in the closet. And,
Yeah.
and I think the teachers that, like you talk about, realize that early on.
Mhm.
And the people that can see through some of those things
Yeah.
and know where that extra love or
Yes.
meeting a kid where they need to be met needs to be done. I mean, those are the incredible, impactful teachers.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
sometimes I look back on it and maybe some of them weren't the best, probably content strong, but I think about just how encouraging they were. And for
Absolutely.
the most part, I had a great childhood, all things considered. But I do know, I mean, I befriended folks that didn't. but those I mean, you couldn't tell. Teachers treated us all the same, and a lot of times those kids may get a little extra along
Yeah.
the way, you know. So
Yep.
I
Yes.
actually ran into, I had a middle school teacher, Mr. Davis. He was probably one of the later years
Yeah.
teacher that kind of impacted me in a big way. I was kind of getting to where I was getting an attitude at that age and kind of
Sure.
a chip on my shoulder.
yeah,
And he started doing fun things like he knew I loved soda.
yeah,
And so he would make
Yeah.
bets with me for a
Yeah.
50-cent can of soda when
Yeah.
it came to classwork and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I ended up passing American history with him. But I actually ran into him about, I guess it was last November at the doctor's office. And he was like, Candice?
yeah,
I was like, yeah, Mr. Davis, how
Yeah.
you doing? And we
Yeah.
got to talking.
Aw.
And,
yeah.
and it was awesome to be able to thank him
Yeah.
Sure.
for who I
Yeah,
am
absolutely.
and the educator that I am.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. Again, those people, obviously, you're doing a great job of paying that forward, and a lot of the times, I mean, the difference you're making, you may or may not, you know, have somebody, you know, verbally express that. But man, it only takes one.
Right.
Yeah.
And-
They
Yeah.
all kids deserve
Yeah.
somebody to believe in them and,
Yeah,
and see the potential.
and people
Yes.
told me this when I got in it. Look, if you've touched the life of one kid, you've done great work. And obviously, and I mean, we can all sit here and talk about it, but just how blessed I am, even, you know, to
Yes.
see the different kids, even at the different spots in my career, whether it be teacher, coach, administrator, and like you're saying, come back and say, hey, man, you probably don't remember this, but, you know, when you did this, and I'm thinking, oh. But yeah, go ahead. And they're like, well, that you know, got me to thinking X, Y, or Z and kind of changed my path a little bit. So that's always a neat thing to do. So your kids, what are their ages? I know you say you have five.
I have five. We have 4 biological children. Our oldest is almost 20. She's at the
Wow.
University of
Okay.
Arkansas in Fayetteville.
Uh-huh.
She does marching band in the color guard
Oh,
there.
wow. Okay.
We
There
were
you go.
actually in a competition at Kansas City this weekend with her.
Uh-huh.
She's our oldest. We have a 17-year-old Adriana. She is a 17-year-old junior
Yeah.
in high school.
Mhm.
Loves sports,
Yeah.
loves Jesus. She has
Yeah.
a heart for missions. She's
Oh, yeah.
actually going on a missions trip. I won't say where, but she's
Yeah.
going on a missions trip in a couple of months
Yeah.
she'll be gone for a couple weeks. And so this
Oh,
is the first
wow.
time that she's
You're gonna
going
be
away
like,
from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's Adriana. Our middle child is Tristan. He just turned 15
Okay.
in the fall. Just started driving.
Oh,
my
yeah.
goodness,
Yeah.
that's
You're
been crazy.
got all these teenagers
Yes,
right now.
yes. He's 15. But he's in the marching band here at Van Buren.
Uh-huh.
Loves it. And then our youngest biological son is 12. His name is Jace. Loves basketball. Very witty.
Yeah.
If it's something a funny joke, he knows it.
Yeah.
And then Willow. We have Willow. She was one of my students here. She's 13 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Our adoption finalized in 2024. In September
Okay.
2024. And so she's been with us for a couple years, and it
Yeah.
has been quite the
Awesome.
journey because
Oh, yeah.
she has a very traumatic past. When she came to us when we were over at the Izzard building, and it was in 2020, the fall of 2020, she was so broken and just needed a
Yeah.
lot.
Sure.
And I'll just say an example. One of the last straws from the public school is she jumped up on the principal's desk and just cleared it and was
Wow.
just throwing shoes,
Yeah.
you know. And so she got sent to the
Sure.
ALE for a different
Right.
environment and smaller, you know, to kind of get the help. She'd been in 11 foster homes that year.
Wow.
Oh my
11.
goodness.
Man,
11.
I can't even imagine.
Absolutely. And she had found her place in a biological
Yeah.
aunt's home.
Yeah.
They were older. They had older children. They were kind of, their youngest was almost a senior in high school. They were ready for that empty nesting phase. And
Yeah.
then here they took in this niece, and
Sure.
they knew that they couldn't be mom and dad,
Right.
but they were trying to be a placeholder until they found a home.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, kudos to you. She's got to
Yeah.
be difficult at home, you know?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and the more I got to know her, there was a day that she gave me a run for my money in the classroom. And
Yeah.
one day I had to just have her removed. I needed her
Yeah.
removed from the classroom. It was so bad. And I called the counselor down because we didn't have a behavior team at that
Sure.
time. And so I called the counselor down and I said, listen, you're going to have to take her out of the
Yeah.
classroom. It's
Right.
getting loud, cussing, things are throwing.
Yeah.
She's got to go.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Lloyd had been with another student at that time. And so she refused to go with the counselor. And she yelled at both of us and said, I'm not going anywhere with you, but I'll go with you. And she
Yeah.
pointed at me.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, Lord. And
Yeah.
I looked at Anastasia, our counselor
Yeah.
at the time, and I said, do you have a minute? I said, everyone else is working and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Do you have a minute? Maybe I can talk with her in the hallway
Yeah.
and maybe we can get somewhere with her. And she was
Yeah.
like, sure, absolutely. So she sat in with my class, and I went out to the hallway with Willow, and she just kind of falls
Yeah.
to the floor and is sitting, in the
Yeah.
floor, and she's crying still because she's upset. And
Right.
so I just got down on the floor with her.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, listen, where
Yeah.
is this coming from? I said, at this time she'd been with us for a couple months, and
Right.
she got kind of mad and started sharing things with me. And I try to make it a habit that students do not know my feelings. Like if
Right,
I'm
yeah.
upset, they don't need
Yeah.
to know that I'm
Yeah.
upset.
Right.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want them to know if I'm
Sure.
frustrated with them.
Right.
'Cause then
Right.
they're going
Right.
to dig a little deeper.
Right.
And so what she was sharing with me broke my heart. She was
Mhm.
sharing about the foster home. She was sharing about what
Yeah.
she had been through. And I knew we've had kids that have gone through a lot, but
Oh.
just to
Right.
hear her story, it just
Yeah.
wrecked me, and I began to cry.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she says, why are you crying? And I said, well, I can't help it. I was like,
Yeah.
what you're telling me, it breaks my heart because I love you. I
Mhm.
love all my students, and
Mhm.
it breaks my heart that you've had to go through that.
Mhm.
And she goes, why? It didn't happen to you,
Yeah.
and I'm just like,
Mhm.
because it happened to you, and
Yeah.
I care about you. And so from that little bit of a conversation
Sure.
in the hallway, and she
Yeah.
saw that I cared.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
you care. Yeah.
Her attitude shifted in class, and things
Yeah.
started to gradually get better. And
Yeah.
I just knew, God, I need to love her big.
Yeah.
And at that time, I still had no idea that we would adopt her, because, like I said, if you'd asked me, we had 4 children already,
Yes.
busy.
Yeah.
I would have laughed and said, no, you got to be mistaken.
Right.
But the more that I taught her, the more God just placed a special place in my heart for her
Yeah.
that was different than the other students. And
Yeah.
I kind of struggle with that because I try to treat all of my students
Sure.
the same. I
Oh,
try
yeah.
to love them the same.
Right.
I don't have
Right.
favorites.
Right.
But the love was different. And I
Yeah.
thought, man, what is this,
Mhm.
And the more I got to know her, I got to know her aunt, her biological aunt that had her, and started building
Right.
that connection.
Mhm.
And I noticed that when they would travel, she would get respite care, and she would go and stay with a DHS respite
Yeah.
care home
Right.
for
Right.
Right.
4 days.
Yep.
And
Yep.
when she'd come back to school,
Mhm.
it was like reset all over
Oh,
again.
yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
man. And I
Yeah.
told her foster mom, I was like, listen, she told me that she had a really bad respite home.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I know. I've already had to report them. She told me what happened.
Mhm.
And I've reported them, and I actually had to report what she had told me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
respite home got shut down,
Yeah.
and it needed to be.
Yeah.
And I told Susan, I said, hey, next time you need respite care, can you call me
Yeah.
or text me? I have friends that do respite care,
Yeah.
and they're really good people with good homes.
Mhm.
Maybe we can get you in. Well, she took me up on it, and like 4 or 5 months later, they were going on a trip, and she called, like, let me call my friends. Everyone was full at that time.
Oh, wow.
And I told her, I said, oh, man, I said, everybody's full. And I said, I wish you didn't have to be licensed because I would take her. I said, she's gotten to know, sometimes my kids would come hang out after school, and she's met them, said hi, I said, I would take her for the few days.
yeah.
It was 5 days. No, it was 4 days. And, so that she didn't have to reset, and we didn't have to go through all this again at school, because Jennifer and I
Right.
always had a hard time with her when she came back
Yeah.
from respite. And she texted me back and said, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think back on that and take it back.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to take it back. If I
Right.
could and we were certified, I would. And she's like, well, the thing is, if it's less than 5 days, you do not have to be equipped, qualified. You don't have to be signed up
Wow.
with DHS. I said, then send her to me. And
Yeah.
and then after I said, I went to Casey and Jeff. I was like,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is this
Making
going to be
sure it's
is
okay.
this going to be
Yeah.
allowed? Which
Yeah.
the nonprofit that I'm a part of is New Start for Children and
Yeah.
Families here in Van Buren, and we support our foster and adoptive families in
Okay.
our community.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things. I was already doing transportation in my free
Sure.
time,
Yeah.
sitting with kids at the hospital,
Yep.
things like that.
Yeah.
And to me, that was kind of in that wheelhouse. And so I brought it to him. I was like, hey, as a representative of New Start, not of,
Right.
Izzard,
Yeah.
would this
Yeah.
be allowed? And they were
Yeah.
like, absolutely, we can keep that separate.
Mhm.
And so I did, and the rest is history. We started
Yeah.
giving respite care for them
Yeah.
for that next year and a half.
Yeah.
My kids fell in love with her. I fell in love with
Yeah.
her. And when the Lord put it on my husband and I's heart to, like,
Yeah.
So
maybe we
sweet.
need to adopt her because they weren't able to find a home. They weren't.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
read her
Ugh.
records and her
Sure.
history,
Yeah.
and they did not want to
Right.
deal with that.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
she's been with us now 2 years. She's still healing. It's
Oh,
it's
man.
not something
that's
that's
incredible.
easy. She
Right.
graduated from our program here and is thriving in a normal traditional classroom.
Wonderful.
And so our program
Wonderful.
really helped her in more ways than just the classroom.
Yeah.
So
But
Ugh.
don't,
Ugh.
but
This
don't
gives
you,
me chills. I
but
love
don't
it.
you find from time to time? I mean, everybody thinks these kids are discipline type problems. But what I find, every kid, no matter, I mean, they have a certain expectation of wanting to be disciplined.
Yes.
And I mean, I know a lot of people outside of our profession probably have a hard time wrapping their head around that.
Yes.
But that's the truth. I mean, I've yet to see the kids like you're talking about with Willow. That, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they want.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it's
The structure and the
yeah, the
Yes.
structure and
discipline with love.
yeah,
It's
the heart,
consistency,
yeah,
yes.
exactly, the tough love,
Mm-hmm.
and so once they get that you get that, I think it
Yes.
makes a big difference.
It's funny because the kids, they know if Mrs. Warden and I have to come in and sub, because we don't get outside subs.
Right.
She and I will step in and we'll take turns filling
Sure.
in the classrooms,
Yeah.
and not that our teachers are not like us. I'm just
Right.
saying they know
Yeah.
we have high expectations for them. Even
Yeah.
our kindergartners, we set really high expectations
Yeah.
for them. We want them to behave,
Right.
but we also love them big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think they know the difference. They know
Sure.
that
Yes.
what they're asking and what they're requiring is coming from a place of love. They want us
Yes.
to grow and be
Oh, yeah.
better.
Kids
Oh,
are
yeah.
great at
Yeah.
that.
Oh, absolutely. So with I almost said, what do you do in your free time? It doesn't sound like you have.
Yeah, no free time. Yeah.
But I mean, when you're not up here doing that, what
Yeah.
what are some things that you enjoy? I mean, obviously you work with some nonprofits,
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
I love spending any extra free time that I have with my kids, with my
Yeah,
family.
right.
We're very active. We like to go hiking. I love, like I said, I've coached basketball 20
Okay,
years.
gotcha.
Last year was my first year to take the time off and not coach, and I
Right.
actually enjoyed it so much that I was like, I don't think I'm going back. I think
Yeah.
my time. I
Taking
think
the
I've done my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy being a mom on the sidelines
Yeah.
now, and so
Yeah.
I still love playing basketball with my kids. You know, we
Right.
love fishing.
Yeah.
We love anything outdoors. I love to
Yeah.
read a good book.
Yeah.
And so, like the week
Yeah.
that we were snowed in, I
Yeah.
curled up with a good book
Got a
and I
book,
was
yeah.
just reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love to spend any extra time. Yes, I know that I've got to take care of myself and I like
Sure.
to do things, but it's almost therapeutic for me to be able to spend that quality
Yeah.
time
Oh
with
yeah.
my family.
Well, I start to say
Yeah,
part of
same.
taking care of yourself is, sometimes it is like you're saying, it's the family time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2005.
Okay, so I'm trying to think in my mind musically what was popular back then.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say
Yeah.
50 Cent and Dr. Dre.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Snoop Dogg,
So is it
Oh, yeah.
when it's just you, no kids around? Do you still kind of sneak that into your
Oh no.
playlist?
Oh no. That was
Yeah.
a different time in general.
Yeah.
I do love old rock and roll though.
Right.
My dad was wonderful. I love my
Yeah.
dad. I'm very
Yeah.
close with my dad.
Sure.
And he loved old school rock and roll.
Yeah.
He was in construction,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would go to I would to get away from my mother.
Yeah.
I would volunteer. I'd be like, take me to
Sure.
work. I'll get up
Yeah.
at 4 in the
Yeah.
morning and
Yeah.
go with your dad, and
Yeah.
and I can finish sheetrock like nobody's
Right.
business.
That's
you
Sure.
know?
awesome.
Yeah, that
and,
is awesome.
and so I would go to work with my dad in the summers. Sometimes my younger siblings would go with
Yeah.
us, and the
Right.
first thing he made sure to load up in the truck was the big stereo.
Oh yeah.
And so he
Yeah.
would be blasting out,
Yeah.
Bon Jovi and the Eagles
Oh, yeah.
and the Beatles, and, and
Well-
now and what's funny is my 12-year-old son
Yeah.
absolutely loves old school rock and
Oh
roll.
yeah.
Absolutely
yeah.
loves
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, prior to this, I was in radio, but through those years of radio, what taught me was just how universal music can be as far as changing a mood, changing an
Yes.
attitude, and those kinds of things. And but yeah, it's very interesting. So again, I almost would ask you, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? But I think you kind of
Yeah.
hit that out. The corporate world,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a real estate tax accountant, and when people, what did you do? At the home office, I was a real estate tax accountant. And I actually every year, and it was about an 18-month cycle. Every 18 months, you could apply for a promotion.
Right.
And that time that I was there, I was climbing the corporate ladder, and every year that I was eligible, I was applying. I was networking. I was
Yeah.
finding my way and
Oh,
moving
yeah.
up in the company.
Yeah.
And I was successful at it. I was
Yeah.
good at it. I'm good with people, and I'm a hard worker. That came from those summers
Yeah.
working with my dad.
With your dad.
Sure.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
And I have very good
Yeah.
work ethic, and so I
Yeah.
and I don't say this to make myself sound good, but
Yeah.
anything that I have done, I've excelled at
Oh, yeah.
because I kept God first.
Right.
I give the company everything that I have,
Right.
Yeah.
and and I just done it and done what was needed to be done. And so, climbed the corporate ladder. I finished out in real estate tax accountant. I was, our team was saving the company millions in tax dollars every year.
Oh, yeah.
Our goal was to fight for lower taxes
Yeah.
if we were being taxed because we were this specific box store.
Right.
And there were other retailers in the area that were approximately, equivalent
Sure.
in size,
Right.
but their taxes were significantly different.
Right.
They were doing it because they could get it out of this company.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so our job was to go in and fight, for lower
Yeah.
taxes, saving the company millions. I think it was like $1.3 million that we saved that year, just our little bitty team.
Yeah.
And all that time I was like, man, we're rocking it out and we're saving millions,
Yeah.
but I still had no purpose. I
Yeah,
was like,
well,
oh, what?
and that's what I started saying, that purpose, that peace of
Yeah.
mind.
Yep.
Until you kind of live that, I don't think people can really appreciate it.
Yes.
Because, like I said, I'd always wanted to work in radio. Got started in high school, and man, just loved it. But still, we talk about it a lot, but there's still that empty space in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thinking, man, there's got to be more to it than
Yes,
that.
and
right?
I absolutely love
That's what I told
where I'm
Darren.
at.
I said, when I get ready to retire, I was like, I'll be back with kids part-time tutoring or something, just because you do kind of miss that.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
we're not in
Yeah.
direct contact
Yeah.
contact with
Right.
the kids,
Yeah.
things that we do impact behind the
Yeah.
scenes,
Right.
impact kids.
So with these kids, we ask this a lot too. Is like an embarrassing moment perhaps that's happened. So what's one that you can share with us maybe
Sure. Oh,
That-
I
that
could
kinda
write a book.
that kind of
Yeah.
that humanized
Me too.
you to some degree in front of your kids? So
Yes, I'm actually a published author. I wrote
Oh,
and
okay,
published
good
a
for
book in
you.
2019,
Yeah.
not related to school, but Out of the Valley
Right.
Conquer. And I've thought many times about writing another book
sure.
based on just experiences as
Oh,
an
yeah.
AE teacher.
Yeah.
But I don't, and maybe that time will come. But one of the funniest things actually happened. I believe it was last year. Yeah, last year. The kids know that I'm a hugger. If they're a
Yeah.
hugger, I'm a hugger.
Sure.
If they're not a hugger, I respect that fully,
Right.
and
Right.
we'll do
Yeah.
high fives and fist
Yeah.
bumps. Well, the kids know where they can come and get a hug.
Right.
And this particular day, Mrs. Warden and I were bringing the kids in from recess, bringing them
Yeah.
to lunch. And I had to stop and unlock it. I had one that was just very clingy that
Sure.
day. He kind of had his arm around me. I was wearing a jacket
Yeah.
because it was cooler. And he kind of had his arms around me, and I'm, kind of loving on him.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
go to unlock the door. And as I'm unlocking the door, he bites my rear end.
Oh, wow.
And, like, he wasn't mad.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
wasn't mad. He
Yeah.
was just. It was
Yeah.
just one of those things. I don't
Yeah.
know what was
Oh
going through his
my
mind, but he just.
Hello.
gosh.
Yeah.
And I go,
Yeah.
and my first instinct was to kind of swat backwards,
Yeah.
but I
Oh.
stopped myself because
Yeah.
I knew that it was a student back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
in the world? And Mrs. Warden's looking at me, and I'm like, he just bit my butt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like, no, wait. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he did. Because he's going, no, I didn't. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, you did.
Yeah.
We look on the camera, and sure enough, he just
Yeah.
is loving on me and turns and just bites the part out of
Wow.
my hind end. So that's
Yeah.
probably one of the
Yeah.
most
Oh, my
embarrassing and
gosh.
funniest
Yeah.
things that have happened
Because
to me.
100%
Oh,
speechless
my
at the
gosh.
point of impact, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yes.
I would have immediately wanted to. Yeah.
I did. I had to
like,
stop,
what is it?
I had to
Yeah.
stop myself here,
Yeah.
and I thought, no, that's this,
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, you talk about, writing a book or whatever, and I don't know if you call what I do as journal, but I've got them everywhere. Probably last count like 23. I mean, they're everywhere. And the other night, something popped in my mind, and I thought I had one in my little sleeve there by the recliner. My wife's like, I said, I need something to write on. And so she goes, well, I've got this, and tosses it. She goes, oh my gosh, is that another? But one of these days, that's the hope, maybe for me, even is pull some of these thoughts and stories
Yes.
together because
The random thoughts of Darren Becker.
Yeah, but I'm getting to the age now. If I don't write it down, it ain't coming back.
I was
so.
kind of thinking the untold secrets of an A teacher.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
for sure.
there you go.
My
Yeah.
family, I never use names, but
Yeah, sure.
I love sharing because my kids
Yeah.
will just laugh. Like, and the first thing that we do, I love picking my kids up from school.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask them, how was your
Yeah.
day? What happened today? What was your favorite thing? What was your least favorite thing? And never fails.
Yeah.
One of them will say, "How was your day?" And
Yeah.
it's like that. Like,
Yeah.
it was actually a pretty mellow
Yeah.
day today.
Yeah, but
They're like,
but-
give us a story.
But you say that. I mean, we have one son, and he's 25. Actually lives in Fayetteville, but he and his wife. But I can remember, like you're saying, that was kind of a highlight of the day, kind of a decompression thing. Even as a superintendent, my wife dropped him off. He rode home with me. And having those conversations, like you're saying, and he got to the point to where, I mean, he had to compartmentalize a few things, like we'd be working on homework or something there in the office, and then something would come up, and he knew, but but yeah, that's some of the best time spent.
Yes,
really,
and
truly.
and you know, and they when I share these things, they get to see a side of education that not a lot of kids get
Sure.
to see.
Right.
And they see, man, I like, because a lot of times they're like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know
Yeah.
how you do it.
I think
you
that
know?
my daughter, she was around so much, she was like, I don't want to be a teacher.
And actually, my oldest daughter, Cadence, wants to be an educator. She wants to be a
Yeah.
teacher.
Sure. Good for her.
She coaches color guard as well.
Okay.
She's the assistant coach at Prairie Grove High School, so she
Wow.
does that and
Yeah.
is full time competing with the
Yeah.
with the university too.
Okay.
This past fall, she needed volunteer hours for a scholarship, and so I came to Casey and Jeff, and I was like, hey, would there ever be an opportunity for volunteering here? Cadence has asked if there might be an option for that, and they was like, you know what? Let's do the paperwork. And she filled out the volunteer paperwork with the district, and
Yep.
she has loved doing her volunteer hours here.
Oh, yeah.
She comes in and
Yeah.
will help in the elementary wing and
Yeah.
help at lunch and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's fallen in love with these kids too.
Right.
Mm.
So, all right, we're
That's
about to
awesome.
wrap it up here. So, but if you have somebody, what would be your best advice to somebody that's kind of where you were at? I mean, locked in a secure place of income for the family, doing your part to support,
Yes.
but you also are getting that nudge to get into teaching and or kind of bent that way. What would you tell them?
That sometimes big risks pay off big.
They do. Yes.
Because it was a big sacrifice. So we had
Yeah.
to sacrifice a lot. My family can attest to that.
Yeah.
But seeing our journey from 2017 to today,
yeah.
and I'm going to try not to get emotional,
Yeah.
but going from days where we didn't know how we were going to pay bills,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're praying as a family because they see
Yeah.
the stress and they know what's going on.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of built their faith too.
Yeah.
But to pray all through these sacrifices that we've
Yeah.
made, and to God show up time and time again. There was a time I couldn't pay an electric bill, and I was like, man, God, you wanted me to do this education thing, and now I can't
Yeah.
pay bills. What am I going to
Yeah.
do, Lord? And He's just, trust me. That's what I kept feeling.
Yeah.
Just trust me.
Yeah.
And then I got a check in the mail for an overpayment of insurance premiums that I had
Oh,
at the
wow.
corporate office,
wow.
and it was like a year later,
wow.
and it was for the
Wow.
dollar amount to the penny of
Wow.
that electric bill.
Yeah.
And so just seeing things like
Yeah,
that kind of
that's-
built
Yep.
not only my faith, but the kids'
Yep.
faith. But
Yeah.
my encouragement would be to, yes, it might feel scary and it might feel like
Right.
a sacrifice and a leap
Yeah.
of faith,
Yeah.
but great things in life are worth it, because
yeah.
seeing God restore just everything that we felt like we lost,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and give us more than we could
Yeah.
have ever imagined.
Well, and to your point in the electric bill, we have a dear friend that always has told us there's no such things as coincidence.
Yes.
And a strong believer, obviously.
Mhm.
But didn't you find this? I found it too, because I had drifted away from radio and gotten a corporate job, I guess you would say, paid more money, that kind of thing. But again, when I went back to school, making those sacrifices, I found out the harder I worked and the more involved I got is where I found that peace of mind, knowing that there would be a means to the end. And again, it was a God thing. because,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very easy to have that drift off and how we're going to make this kind of thing
Yeah.
happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
But,
Yep.
I think when you get so involved and you're determined to do what God's called you to do,
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, that's when it doesn't really seem like work. I mean, it's hard work, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But at the end
Yep.
of the day, when I can remember, I'd got back on the air, but I'd go to school from like 7 a.m. Until about 1, go in, do some production. My air shift was till midnight, and start the whole and they're like, how do you do it? And I said, well, faith and a lot of sack lunches, really.
Yes.
But you can't think about it or you'll derail yourself.
Absolutely. I think I found myself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way
I
of saying it.
I didn't
Mhm.
exactly know who I was. I think that's
Right.
why I went from
Yeah.
job to job to job,
Mhm.
trying to fulfill a
Yeah.
spot that wasn't fulfilled
Yeah.
in my heart.
Yeah.
And stripping all those things away helped me to find out who I was and,
Yeah.
and what I was called to do
Yeah.
and what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yep.
And it made
Yep.
it made that leap of faith.
Well,
all the
just like
better.
your dad was for you. I mean, you're setting a fantastic example
Mhm.
for your own kids to
Mhm.
show them a couple of things. I mean,
Mhm.
you can't outwork hard work.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then second of all, if it's meaningful and it's what God's called you to do, stay faithful.
Yes,
Right.
our
Yeah.
daughter that's in college has had a hard time adjusting
Yeah.
to college life.
Sure.
And, I've been in school myself. And so, there was this class, it was anatomy and physiology. It was
Oh,
kicking
yeah.
my tail back in
Yeah.
November. And they saw the nights where any extra time that I had, I was studying, I was watching videos on
Yeah.
anatomy, and I,
Yeah.
you know, and it kind of motivated her. And I told her, I was like, Cadence, if I can do it,
Yeah.
I'm a mom of 5 and I work
Mhm.
full time. If
Yeah.
I can do it,
Right.
you can do it.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of the whole thing of
Yeah.
going back to school and getting it done. Because
Yeah.
now I'm at a point in my life where the kids aren't little and taking
Yeah.
as much time, and they're so supportive.
Sure.
They're like, Mom needs to study. Like everybody be quiet. I,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I would have a
Yeah.
proctored exam, and I'd go
Yep.
through the house and be like, Hey, I'm fixing to log on with the
Yeah.
proctor.
Yeah.
Nobody say anything in the house on this
Yeah.
side. You know, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
they've been really supportive.
Yeah.
But being able to
Good.
push through and get it done,
Yeah.
and then now, you know, graduating next month,
Yeah.
that's big for me because
Oh yeah.
I'm actually the first person in my family to graduate with a bachelor's
Oh
degree
wow.
in college.
Well, awesome.
And so
Yeah.
first generation, and that is also teaching my kids.
Sure.
Yes.
You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do
Yes.
whatever you put your mind to,
That's right.
even if it takes you.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll,
Oh, yeah.
I'm 39 years old. I'll be 40
Right.
this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Even
just
it takes
taken.
a
I've
while.
taken the long route, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping that by me taking the long route, it might help them to not take so long.
Well, and I look at it too. The long route is much more scenic.
Yeah.
In
Well,
lots of ways. you know.
Listening to you just talk about, you know, what the sacrifices you made, what you have to give up, you know, it makes me think about Darren's seen it. My mom bought me a little tapestry and gave it to me when I started teaching. And it's like in 100 years, it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in. What matters is that you're important in the life of a
Absolutely.
kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is what,
Makes it all
you
worth
know,
it.
Oh yeah.
100% makes it
100%.
all worth it.
Yeah.
Makes it all worth
Well,
it.
keep up the great work.
Thank
and,
you.
And
Yes.
hey, I mean,
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
yeah,
Thank
Enjoyed
I
it.
tell you what, this was worth the trip of riding up here with
Yeah,
Candice.
I
to meet-
mean-
to meet a worthwhile Candice in my life.
Listen, he acts like
I
I'm
can
on my
say-
laptop most of the
I can
thing.
say that now.
Working in the
Hey.
car.
We can all say that. I think we know of a Candice that actually amounted to something.
Oh,
right?
goodness.
Yeah, so, yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for spending time with us today.
We've enjoyed
and like
it
I
so
said, yeah,
much.
keep up the great work.
Yes.
And that will wrap it up for this edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.